A cold dawn over Saipan Airfield, January 1945. B-29 Superfortresses line on hard stands, massive radial engine steaming as they warm up, Pacific horizon glowing faintly, ground crew silhouettes, rendered as a gritty World War II-era pencil, and ink painting sketch, muted tones, dramatic shadows. Interior of AB-29 Central Fire Control Station, young gunner with tense expression strapping into a cramped metal sphere, wires and analog dials surrounding him, hands slightly shaking, charcoal and graphite sketch style, worn wartime illustration feel. Close-up portrait of Robert Chin, 22 years old, Asian-American World War II airman, leather flight helmet and oxygen mask resting on chest, eyes anxious yet determined, detailed pencil sketch with rough cross-hatching like an old war diary drawing. Wide interior cutaway of the B-29 cockpit and crew positions, pilot on checklist, bombardier at the nose, gunners testing turrets, 11 young men focused and silent, sepia-tone ink sketch reminiscent of 1940s military art. The B-29 lifting off from Saipan runway at sunrise, heavy and slow, wheels just leaving the ground, palm trees and ocean beyond, classic aviation sketch style, faded watercolor wash over pencil lines, high-altitude flight over open Pacific, formation of silver B-29s cruising above clouds, long shadows cast on cloud tops, minimalist graphite sketch with soft shading, old reconnaissance art aesthetic, technical style illustration of the B-29 Superfortress in flight, highlighting pressurized cabin and remote control gun turrets, hand-drawn engineering sketch look, aged paper texture. Japanese home islands coastline coming into view beneath thin clouds, ominous mood, distant cities barely visible, ink and wash wartime illustration with restrained color. Interior fire control station view as radar scopes glow faintly, chin gripping controls, oxygen mask on, frost forming on metal surfaces, tense pencil sketch with stark contrasts. Japanese key, 44 Tojo fighter scrambling from an airfield near Tokyo, climbing steeply into the sky, propellers blurred, dynamic ink sketch with aggressive motion lines. First contact over Japan, multiple key, 44 fighters diving toward B-29 formation, tracer fire streaking through thin air, chaotic World War II combat sketch style, rough pencil strokes. Tail gunner's perspective as a Tojo fighter is hit and spirals downward trailing smoke, dramatic diagonal composition, classic war illustration look with heavy shading. Midair chaos as two Japanese fighters close in from high angle, one being torn apart by .50 caliber fire, wings breaking, rendered as a raw charcoal battlefield sketch. Ramming attack moment frozen in time. Key, 44 fighter seconds from impact would be 29's right wing, chin shouting into intercom. Intense close quarters aerial combat sketched like an old oil underpainting draft. Violent collision scene. Japanese fighter propeller ripping into B-29's number 3 engine. Explosion and debris erupting, dark expressive ink sketch conveying shock and force. B-29 lurching out of formation, right wing ablaze, engines failing, smoke trailing across sky, lonely and damaged bomber illustrated in somber pencil and wash style. Interior chaos after impact, warning lights glowing, crew shouting through oxygen masks, fire extinguisher spray in the air, frantic wartime sketch with blurred motion. Single crippled B-29 fly alone above enemy territory. Japanese fighters circling in distance, vast empty sky, melancholic graphite drawing with minimal detail. Symbolic scene of the Superfortress, enduring damage. Bullet holes and torn metal visible, crew silhouettes inside still fighting. Heroic World War II propaganda-style sketch. Distant view of the damaged B-29 disappearing into clouds, smoke trail fading, sense of uncertainty and defiance. Old faded pencil painting sketch on aged paper texture. The first ram hit like the end of the world. The Key 44's propeller chewed into number 3 engine with a screech of tearing metal. Explosion. Fireball. The B-29 yawed violently right, wing dipping toward the earth 28,000 feet below. Alarms wailed. Intercom erupted in shouts. We're on fire. Engines gone. Bail out. Robert Chun, in the central fire control blister, felt the plane buck like a wild horse. His stomach dropped. For a split second, he thought of home, of his mother's kitchen in California. The smell of rice cooking, her worried letters asking him to come back safe. He was only 22. He didn't want to die over Japan. The pilot fought the controls, feathering the burning engine, shutting fuel lines. The fire died, but 2 right engines were dead. The Superfortress, designed for 4, now limped on 2 left ones, losing altitude fast. They dropped from formation, alone in hostile sky. The crew's voices cracked over intercom, fear raw, unhidden. The tail gunner, voice shaking. Fighters still coming. The left blister gunner. I see more. 6 o'clock low. Chun wiped sweat from his eyes, hands trembling on the sighting controls. He thought of his crewmates, men he'd eaten with, joked with, trusted with his life. The engineer who'd shared family photos. The radio operator who'd played cards all night before missions. They were family now. He couldn't let them down. The second wave attacked. 6 Key 44s dove from sun. Chun tracked the leader at 1,000 yards. Lead fire. Tracers reached out. The Tojo burst into flame, spinning down, kill 5. The upper turret gunner nailed another. Wing ripped off, kill 6. But 2 closed fast for ramming. Chun screamed, "Rammers!" 2 coming in. The first missed by a feet. Prop wash rocking the bomber. The second didn't. Impact on the left wing. Propeller slicing into number 1 engine nacelle. Metal screamed. The left outboard engine exploded. Fire again. The plane rolled left, almost inverted. Chun was thrown against his harness, head slamming the sight. Stars burst in his vision. For a moment he thought, this is it. We're going down. But the pilot, voice steady despite everything, yelled, "I've got her! Hold on!" He firewalled the remaining number 2 engine, trimmed desperately. The B-29 leveled, barely, now on 1 engine. Altitude bleeding. Speed dropping. Over 1,500 miles of ocean to home. The crew went quiet, shock turning to grim resolve. The wounded engineer reported. 1 engine left. Fuel leaking. Hydraulics damaged. Chen's hands shook, but he stayed on his sights. More fighters circled, testing, waiting for the kill. They came again. A Tojo closed from the tail. Tail gunner, wounded earlier, voice weak, called, "I've got him!" Burst after burst. The fighters smoked, veered, kill 7. Chun tracked another diving from 2 o'clock high. He led perfectly. 800 yards. 600. Squeeze. The Tojo's canopy shattered, pilot slumping, kill 8. The crew cheered weakly, defiance through pain. But the attacks continued. Wave after wave. The gunners, freezing, oxygen low, systems failing, fought like possessed men. Chen's world narrowed to his sight. Crosshairs led, fire. He thought of his father, immigrant who worked 2 jobs so his son could have a better life. He couldn't die here. Not like this. A rammer came straight at the nose. Bombardier and Chin fired together. The Tojo disintegrated midair, kill 9. Another from below. Ball turret and Chin shredded it, kill 10. The left blister gunner, voice hoarse, nailed 1 closing on the damaged wing, kill 11. The tail gunner, barely conscious, got another, his gun jamming after, kill 12. Chen's arms ached from the recoil vibration through the computer system. Frostbite numbed his fingers, but he kept firing. The final wave, 3 Toyos desperate. 1 rammed a nearby B-29, seen exploding. The other 2 dove on A-square. Chun and upper turret caught 1 head-on. Cannon fire tearing the fuselage, kill 13. The last closed for ram. Chun led, fired full burst. The Tojo's engine exploded, cartwheeling past the tail, kill 14. Silence. No more fighters. The sky empty. The crew, exhausted, wounded, in shock, realized what they'd done. 14 kills, the most any bomber crew ever scored in 1 mission. But joy was short. 1 engine. 1,500 miles of ocean. Fuel leaking. Wounded aboard. Night coming. The pilot's voice, calm but strained. We're going home on 1 engine. Conserve everything. Pray. Chin looked at his hands, numb, shaking. He thought of his mother again. of never seeing California's sunsets. The long fight home began. Every minute suspense. Will the engine hold? Will fuel last? Will they ditch in dark waves? The crew, brothers now forever, held their breath together, one engine thundering against the vast Pacific night. The Pacific stretched endless below, black water under a star-filled sky. No land in sight, just a lone throb of the remaining number 2 engine pushing ace square, 52 westward at barely 150 knots. Every vibration felt like a warning. Every call from the overworked right radial made hearts skip. Robert Chin sat in his blister, hands numb from cold, staring at the empty sky where fighters had been hours ago. His mind raced, replaying the rams, the explosions, the faces of crewmen he'd seen wounded. He whispered prayers he'd learned as a kid, thinking of his parents in California, how they'd cry if he never came home. He was the youngest. Everyone called him Kid. Now, he felt older than them all. The pilot's voice crackled over intercom, steady but strained. "Boys, we're on one engine. 1,200 miles to go. Conserve oxygen. Lighten the ship if we have to." The crew, battered, bleeding, rallied. The engineer jettisoned everything non-essential. Ammo belts, tools, even personal gear. Anything to reduce weight. Stretch fuel. One gunner, left blister, arm shattered by shrapnel, groaned in pain. The flight engineer crawled through the unpressurized bomb bay to reach him, applying tourniquets with frozen fingers. "Hang on, buddy," he kept saying. "We're getting you home." Chin heard all on intercom, raw, unfiltered fear and love. These men weren't just crewmates. They were brothers who'd shared foxhole jokes, homesick letters, dreams of post-war life. The radio operator who'd promised his newborn daughter he'd be back for her first birthday. The bombardier planning to marry his girl the day he got home. Chin thought of his own dreams, college after the war, maybe engineering, making his immigrant parents proud. He couldn't die now. Not after surviving hell over Tokyo. Hours dragged. Altitude dropped to 8,000 feet. Fuel conservation. Cold deepened. Frost formed inside. Oxygen low. Some crew passed out briefly. The engineer reported grimly. Fuel leak worse. We're losing it faster. Silence on intercom. Then the pilot. "We ditch if we have to. Raft's ready. Stay together." Chen's heart pounded. Ditching in the Pacific at night. Waves 20 feet. Cold water killing in minutes. Survival slim. He stared at the engine nacelle visible from his blister. Prop spinning faithfully, but glowing red-hot from overload. How long could it hold? Memories flooded. Chin remembered his first mission. Terrified, missing every shot. Veterans teasing him gently. "You'll get him next time, kid." Now he'd scored kills, saved the plane multiple times. He wasn't a scared rookie anymore. The crew shared quiet words over intercom. Last messages home. If they didn't make it, one gunner, "Tell my wife I love her." Another, "Mom, I'm sorry." The pilot, "We're not done yet. Keep faith." Chin spoke up, voice cracking. "We're making it. For each other." Tears in the dark. No shame. Just men facing the end together. Dawn crept. Gray light on horizon. Iwo Jima appeared. A tiny speck. Emergency field captured months ago. But 300 miles short. Engine sputtering now. The pilot pushed it. Full power, risking seizure. "Come on, baby, hold together." Crew prayed aloud. Land birds appeared, sign of islands. Hope surged. Then the engine coughed badly. Smoke trailed. "Prepare to ditch," pilot said calmly. Chun braced, heart in throat. This was it. But the cough cleared. Engine steadied, barely. Tinian finally sighted, runway lights faint. Fuel gauge on empty. Approach tense. Flaps damaged, landing speed high. One engine, no go-around. The pilot greased it. Touchdown perfect despite everything. Plane rolled, slowed, stopped. Silence. Then cheers, raw. Sobbing cheers. They'd made it. 1,500 miles on one engine. 14 kills. All 11 crew alive. Wounded, but alive. Medics rushed them. Chin stumbled out last, legs weak, tears freezing on cheeks. He looked at the battered B-29, wings torn, engines dead, holes everywhere, and whispered, "Thank you." The crew hugged, bloody, frostbitten, exhausted. Brothers forever. A square. 52 never flew again. But her men did live full lives because of that night. The fight wasn't over. But the longest part, the fight to come home. The wheels of A square. 52 touched Tinian's runway with a screech that felt like the sweetest sound any of them had ever heard. The battered Superfortress rolled to a stop. One engine still coughing smoke, the airframe groaning from wounds no plane should survive. Silence fell for a heartbeat. Then the crew erupted. Men who had stared death in the face for hours poured out of hatches, some crawling, some carried. Robertson stumbled down last, legs barely holding him, tears streaming as medics rushed forward. He collapsed in the arms of ground crew, sobbing like a child. "We made it! We made it!" The pilot, face pale from strain, hugged each man, voice breaking. "You boys, you magnificent boys." The wounded were lifted onto stretchers, but even they smiled through pain, reaching for hands, whispering thanks. 14 kills. One engine home. 11 men alive when odds said none. Word spread across Tinian like wildfire. Other crews, waiting for their own planes to return, gathered around the wreck. They stared at the damage. Wings shredded by rams, engines mangled, fuselage pocked with cannon holes. One mechanic whispered, "This bird flew on prayer alone." The crew was rushed to hospital. Frostbite, shrapnel wounds, exhaustion. Chen's hands blistered from the gun controls, eyes bloodshot from strain. But as doctors worked, the men kept talking, reliving every moment, every kill, every prayer over the dark ocean. Chun lay in his cot that night, staring at the ceiling. He thought of his mother, how she'd light candles at church for his safe return. He cried quietly, relief crashing over him like waves. He was alive. They all were. The awards came fast. The entire crew received distinguished flying crosses. The gunners, Chin included, earned silver stars for the 14 kills. The pilot got the Distinguished Service Cross. But the real recognition was quieter. General Curtis LeMay, commander of the B-29 campaign, visited the hospital. He stood at their bedsides, voice gruff but eyes soft. "You men did what no one thought possible. You brought her home." The story became legend in the Marianas. Crews on other groups told around mess tables. "Heard about A-Square? Rammed twice, one engine, 1,500 miles, 14 fighters down." New gunners asked Chin for tips when he returned to duty. He smiled shyly. "Just don't quit. The plane wants to live too." A-Square. 52 never flew again, too damaged. Stripped for parts, her nose art preserved. But her spirit lived in every B-29 that followed. The men finished their tours. Some rotated home. Chin went back to California, hugged his mother so tight she laughed through tears. He married, raised children, worked as an engineer. Quiet life, but proud. Reunions became tradition. Every year, survivors gathered. First with full crew, then fewer as time took its toll. They told the story again. The rams, the dark ocean, the engine holding just long enough. Chin spoke least, but when he did, eyes misted. We weren't heroes. We were scared kids who wouldn't leave each other. In later years, documentaries retold it. Books featured the mission, Fire and Fury, chapters on B-29 gunners. Museums displayed models of A-Square, ram damage recreated. Young pilots studied it. Air Force Academy classes on crew resource management, resilience under fire. The human side endured most. Letters between families. Children hearing dad stories. Grandchildren asking, "Were you scared, Grandpa?" Answer always, terrified. But we had each other. The last survivor passed decades later. But the bond never died. 14 kills was record. But the real victory was 11 men coming home when everything said they wouldn't. They defied gravity, fighters, ocean, fear, because they refused to quit on each other. In a war of machines and millions, their story is profoundly human. Young men, far from home, facing death together, choosing life for their brothers. The engine held because they believed it would. The plane flew because love and war are stronger than metal. A Square 52's greatest weapon wasn't guns or bombs. It was the hearts of 11 men who wouldn't let go. Thanks for walking the sky with me. In the darkest hours of the Pacific, light broke through, not from bombs, from brotherhood, from refusing to leave anyone behind. That's the true story of A Square 52. The Superfortress that carried 11 souls home on one engine, an unbreakable spirit. They flew through hell and brought heaven with them, each other.